When Queen Elizabeth visited the set of Game of Thrones in 2014, she refused to sit on the Iron Throne. She was simply following an old law that prohibits the Queen from sitting on any foreign throne. Reading the Bible or watching porn are both strictly forbidden crimes punishable by death in North Korea. In 1972, Neil Armstrong visited the town of Longholm, Scotland. When he got there, he was read a 400-year-old law declaring that any Armstrong found in the town should be hanged. Here's a 1955 photo of a woman being ticketed for wearing a bikini on a public beach in Italy. US law requires that eggs sold in supermarkets must be washed, while UK law requires that eggs sold in supermarkets must not be washed. Both do it to prevent salmonella. In ancient Rome, men found guilty of rape had their testicles crushed between two stones. Mississippi didn't make it illegal to buy or sell a child until 2009. Only after a woman tried to sell her granddaughter online for $2,000 and a car. Legislators realized there was no law to punish her under, so they finally made one. The first ever case of biofluorescence in Tasmanian devils was documented just last year at Ohio's Toledo Zoo. While typically observed in fish, this phenomenon has also been seen in certain squirrels, possums, and platypuses. It's unclear what purpose this incredible trait serves in land mammals, but scientists think it might be a way for them to identify each other and attract mates in the dark. Ken Allen the orangutan escaped from his exhibit at the San Diego Zoo at least 9 separate times in the 1980s. His apparent goals included observing other animals, throwing rocks at his orangutan rivals, and happily taking photos with tourists. Baffled by his continuous ability to escape, the zoo was forced to spend over $40,000 to eliminate any possible escape routes in his enclosure. Ken famously earned himself the nickname the Hairy Houdini. Peo the French Stallion is a 16-year-old therapy horse that provides comfort to patients suffering from terminal cancer. Each day he chooses which patients he wants to visit by kicking his hoofs outside their doors. This blind pregnant woman got her ultrasound 3D printed and was overcome with joy. In 2005, a bald eagle was shot in the face by a poacher, causing her to lose her beak. She struggled to eat anything and was on the verge of starving until a non-profit organization gave her a 3D printed prosthetic beak, making her even more badass than ever before. In 2020, a woman from Vancouver had a teddy bear stolen from her which had a voice recording of her deceased mother who passed away from cancer. But after celebrities like Ryan Reynolds offered a cash reward and helped make the story go viral, the teddy bear was soon found and returned. A couple from the UK was renovating their 300-year-old home in 2019 when they discovered something amazing under their kitchen floor. It was a cup filled with 264 rare coins, some dating back as early as 1610. The collection's expected to sell for around $300K at auction next month. In Hocus Pocus, Sarah Jessica Parker played a witch who was executed during the Salem witch trials. Years later, the actress found out that her 10th great-grandmother was actually accused of witchcraft in Salem 1692. Sodium nitrate is the secret ingredient that will turn any cheese into a creamy nacho cheese sauce. By pure coincidence, sodium nitrate's chemical formula spells out the word nacho. The Secret Service agent who saved Ronald Reagan's life was inspired to become an agent after watching The Secret Service, a 1939 film starring Ronald Reagan as a Secret Service agent. The Spire wine bottle was found in 1867 in what used to be a part of ancient Rome. Dating back to the 4th century AD, it's believed to be the oldest unopened bottle of wine in the world. This staircase at the Hallstatt salt mine in Austria is 3,100 years old. It's the oldest known wooden staircase ever discovered. The average lifespan of koi fish in Japan is typically around 40 years. But born in 1751, a koi fish named Hanako far exceeded this average, reportedly dying at the age of 226 in the year 1977. This 3,200-year-old Egyptian tablet is considered to be the oldest attendance sheet in the world. Reasons for being absent included brewing beer, embalming brother, and bitten by scorpion. An African gray parrot named Nikizi has an advanced vocabulary of about 950 words and can use them in complete sentences with proper grammar. He understands the concept of photographs, can identify objects within a photo, and even demonstrates a sense of humor. In 2004, he saw a picture of Jane Goodall with a chimpanzee before ever meeting her, and when they finally met, he asked her, "Got a chimp?" Wild wolves and ravens will sometimes form a symbiotic relationship to consume prey. Ravens have been observed calling wolves over to dead animals so that the wolves can rip the carcasses open, in turn leaving some scraps for the ravens once they're finished. Out of the estimated 307 million lakes in the world, less than 30 of them are pink. The largest being Australia's Lake Hillier, which gets its natural bubblegum hue from a combination of red algae and bacteria. But the water is completely safe for humans to swim in. A sundog is an extremely rare weather phenomenon that produces bright spots around the sun. It happens when sunlight refracts off of ice crystals during perfect atmospheric conditions. There are over 38,000 McDonald's locations in the world, but only the one in Roswell, New Mexico is shaped like a UFO. This incredible award-winning photograph left scientists from all over the world completely astonished in 2018. At the very center of the image is a single atom suspended in motion by electric fields. What makes this photo so amazing is that it was captured with just an ordinary camera. Peter Freuchen was a 6'7" Danish explorer who was the real-life version of the most interesting man in the world. Throughout the 1910s, he rode thousands of miles across the Arctic by dog sled. On one occasion, he became trapped in an avalanche and was buried deep in a pile of snow and ice. Lacking any sharp weapon to escape, he created a dagger out of his frozen feces and broke through the ice with his bare hands. After crawling back to base camp for 3 hours, he noticed his toes had turned black, so he amputated them by himself with nothing but a pair of pliers. In the years that followed, he was the star of an Oscar-winning movie, wrote 32 books as an author, and became the 5th person to win the jackpot on the famous game show The $64,000 Question. In his later years, he became actively involved in the Dutch resistance and fought against Nazi occupation in Denmark. He was seen as such a threat to the Nazi movement that Hitler himself ordered him to be arrested and sentenced to death. The photo above shows Peter standing next to his third wife, wearing a coat made out of the polar bear that was unlucky enough to cross his path. For 24 years, Missouri woman Dee Dee Blanchard pretended that her daughter Gypsy had multiple chronic conditions. She claimed her daughter suffered from leukemia, asthma, muscular dystrophy, and had the mental capacity of a 7-year-old. Dee Dee forced her to stay in a wheelchair and act disabled, subjecting her to many unnecessary surgeries and medications. Gypsy was often fed through a feeding tube and supplied air through an oxygen tank. Her mother also regularly shaved the girl's head to give her the appearance of a cancer patient. Whenever Gypsy suggested that she wasn't actually sick, her mother would physically harm her. In 2015, Gypsy was finally tired of her mother's horrific abuse and sent her boyfriend to stab Dee Dee 17 times in the back. Today, Gypsy is still serving out her 10-year sentence after pleading guilty to second-degree murder of her abusive mother. In 2006, 2 Australian miners who were trapped in a cave requested an iPod containing songs by the Foo Fighters. Upon hearing about this, lead singer Dave Grohl wrote a note to them saying, "I want you to know that when you come home, there's 2 tickets to any Foo show anywhere and 2 cold beers waiting for you." The men were rescued a few days later, and the Foo Fighters even wrote a song about them. The movie 50 First Dates inspired a real-life early dementia treatment across America. Every morning, patients are shown a video message of support from loved ones, just like the video at the end of the movie. In 2019, a Florida man accidentally locked his 1-year-old baby inside of his hot car. That's when 5 nearby prisoners out on work detail came to the rescue with a coat hanger to break her out. The mother who recorded a video of it said, "Them prisoners bust that shit right open. Thank God for the criminals in the world." A chimpanzee from Zambia was observed wearing a piece of grass in her ear for no apparent reason. But after other members of her group started copying her, researchers soon realized that this was the first fashion statement observed in the wild. In Moscow, Russia, packs of stray dogs have been known to send out a smaller, cuter member to beg for food. They apparently understand that it will be more successful than a bigger, less attractive member of the pack. Octopuses are considered to be the smartest invertebrate animals on the planet. On 3 separate occasions, Otto the octopus caused a power outage at his aquarium by climbing to the edge of his tank and shooting a jet of water at a bright light. He's also been seen juggling hermit crabs, throwing rocks at the glass, and rearranging the surroundings of his tank. It's extremely rare for axolotls to go through a phase called morphing, where they lose their gills and webbed feet and essentially evolve into a land creature. But it still happens occasionally as a result of dormant genes from their ancestors, like what happened to this one named Gollum. Found only in the swamps of southern Missouri, dragon scale calcite looks like it came straight out of Game of Thrones. Someone accidentally deleted important photos from their camera, so an image recovery software brought them all back, including this test shot where the camera was assembled in China. This rare tomahawk steak appears to have been cooked to perfection. In certain parts of England, you can find these wavy brick fences. This shape actually uses fewer bricks than a normal brick wall, since it only requires one layer of bricks to make it sturdy thanks to the arch support provided by the wavy pattern. This iconic photograph of 28-year-old Marcy Borders covered in dust was taken just after the World Trade Center collapsed on 9/11. Marcy was a bank teller who worked on the 81st floor of the North Tower. She survived the collapse, but sadly died from cancer in 2014, likely caused by the toxic fumes she was exposed to. This is the gravestone of H.R. Giger, the Swiss artist and sculptor who designed the creatures for the movie Alien. On a British Airways flight in 1995, a woman was complaining of chest pain, so 2 doctors came over to check on her. They quickly realized she was suffering from a punctured lung and required immediate surgery. But the problem was they couldn't land for help since the increase in air pressure could kill her. So they performed mid-air surgery on her using a coat hanger, silverware, and a bottle of cognac for sterilization. Within 10 minutes, they'd saved her life. The largest known Easter Island statue was carved but never dug out from the ground. It would have stood at 72 feet tall and weighed up to 360,000 pounds. With the largest standing statue being only 33 feet tall, it's likely that this one was simply far too big to erect. In the year 1916, an Ottoman supply train was ambushed by Lawrence of Arabia in the middle of the Arabian desert, where it still lies today. Here's a comparison of the coronation gloves of Queen Elizabeth I from 1559 and Queen Elizabeth II from 1953. There are 5 temples in Kyoto, Japan, where you can find ceilings that are stained with blood. They're made from the floorboards of Fushimi Castle, which was attacked by an army of 40,000 men in the year 1600. Greatly outnumbered and facing defeat, Torimoto Tada and his remaining 380 samurai warriors took their own lives, pouring blood all over the floor. The short-faced bear was once the most abundant bear in all of North America until it went extinct around 11,000 BC. Some scientists argue that these massive bears delayed human migration into North America because they kept killing men trying to cross the Bering Strait. Heart Attack Grill is a restaurant in Las Vegas where customers over 350 pounds eat for free. The only vegan option on the menu is cigarettes, and up to 3 people have died from heart attacks while eating there. In 1940, Walt Disney hired 11 little people to dress up as Pinocchio and wave to people at the movie's premiere. He left them on a theater balcony with enough food and wine for the day, but there was no way for them to get down. By late afternoon, they had all taken off their thick, sweaty costumes and were naked, drunk, and swearing at parents and their children. When Dahmer became obsessed with animal corpses by the age of 4, his chemist father was proud that Jeffrey appeared to have found a scientific passion. So he showed his son how to properly clean and preserve animal bones with bleach, the methods for which Dahmer would eventually use on humans. To keep them under his control, Dahmer not only drugged his victims, but even attempted to turn some of them into sex zombies. He would drill holes in their heads and pour hydrochloric acid inside while they were still alive. When police finally investigated Dahmer's apartment, the chief examiner said it was more like dismantling a museum than an actual crime scene. It was so full of mangled corpses that Dahmer ran out of room and had to store one in his bathtub, meaning he had been showering over a dead corpse every morning. While filming for Blade Trinity, Jessica Biel was instructed to shoot an arrow directly at the camera that was more than 60 feet away. It was protected by plexiglass except for a 2x2-inch square in front of the lens, which Biel managed to hit with a direct bullseye, thus destroying the $300,000 camera. Just hours after the death of Nintendo CEO Satoru Iwata, a rainbow appeared over the Nintendo headquarters. Fans dubbed it the Rainbow Road to Heaven. In the year 1506, a 1,000-year-old statue was discovered in Rome, but it was missing an arm, so the Pope set up a contest to see who could come up with the best recreation of the missing arm. Michelangelo's version lost, but 400 years later the original arm was found and had been sculpted in the exact same position that Michelangelo designed. Prior to filming The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger locked himself in a hotel room and talked to only himself for 6 straight weeks. He said this helped him land more in the realm of a psychopath to prepare for his iconic role of the Joker. Many believe this extreme dedication was partially responsible for his accidental overdose on sleeping pills the next year. A horrific bungee cord injury caused this man's iris to completely collapse. Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma used to be the wealthiest black community in all of America. That was until 1921 when a mob of white supremacists attacked the community with the help of the National Guard. Using guns, explosives, and even airplanes, they decimated 35 square blocks of the neighborhood and murdered hundreds of African Americans. It's known today as the Black Wall Street Massacre. In the summer of 2021, 40-year-old Jerry Smith was posing on Tinder as a woman named Angie Renee when he met 18-year-old football player Isemimen Itute. After they got together and went all the way with each other, Itute realized that Angie was a man. That's when the 6'3" linebacker stomped and beat the man to death. Just earlier this year, he was acquitted of all murder charges. This photo from the early 1900s shows nurses standing with mentally ill patients wrapped in wet linens. This treatment method was thought to be calming for patients, despite many of them constantly screaming to get out. Here's a 1989 photo of South African spear fisherman Gerhio van Niekerk showing off his recent bite mark from a great white. He told reporters, quote, "It was a 1 in a million freak accident." While diving near Cape Town just 2 months afterwards, Gerhio went missing until his shark-bitten leg washed ashore a few days later. In 2004, a Georgia man was found naked and beaten unconscious next to a dumpster behind a Burger King. He didn't have any possessions or ID on him and couldn't even remember his own name. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he recognized himself but realized he was about 20 years older than he thought. For the next decade, authorities struggled to identify the man despite TV coverage and a nationwide effort. Given the alias Benjamin Kyle, the man was unable to obtain employment without his social security number and therefore became homeless for several years. It wasn't until 2015 when he was finally identified through DNA testing as William Burgess Powell, born in 1948. But despite this discovery, there's still a 20-year gap in his life history with no documented records or anything he can remember. This pic shows Thomas Whitaker on the right celebrating his college graduation with his mom Patricia and brother Kevin. But in reality, Thomas flunked out of school and devised a plan so that his family would never find out. When they returned home the same night this photo was taken, a gunman hired by Thomas ambushed the family, killing Kevin and Patricia and wounding the father Ken. Thomas was initially sentenced to death for the 2 murders, but in 2018 he was spared just 40 minutes before his execution. Turns out his father forgave him and requested for his only remaining family member to not be executed. In 1991, Nigerian prophet Daniel Abadunrin apparently wanted to recreate the story of Daniel in the Bible, so he broke into a lion cage at the zoo with the belief that God wouldn't allow them to open their mouths. But as soon as the lions saw Daniel, they tore him to shreds. While filming the final scene of the movie Kingpin, where Bill Murray's character bowls 3 strikes in a row, Bill Murray actually did bowl 3 strikes in a row. His celebration along with the crowd's roaring applause were both genuine reactions. An adopted man from Michigan had been searching for his birth mother for 4 years before finding out she'd been working at the same Lowe's as him the entire time. Founder of the Ferrari company, Enzo Ferrari, died on August 14, 1988. Just 1 month later, on October 15th, Arsenal football player Mesut Ozil was born. Someone took this pic of an albino peacock at the exact time that it flew over a regular one, making it look like its spirit was exiting its body. Famous Austrian composer Arnold Schoenberg had extreme triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13. He ended up dying on Friday the 13th at the age of 76. During a Bronx apartment fire in 2010, 18-year-old Vanessa Scott realized that her baby cousin started choking on smoke. That's when she managed to slide the girl through the 5th-story window and held onto her tightly so that she wouldn't suffocate. Both the woman and her cousin ended up surviving. Just days after 95-year-old Jimmy Carter received 15 stitches from falling, the former president traveled to Nashville to help build porches for Habitat for Humanity. For years, Texas father Gordon Hartman struggled to find an amusement park that would accommodate his daughter Morgan's special needs. So in 2005, he decided to sell his successful home building company and built an entire theme park fully accessible to people with special needs. The $50 million park features dozens of attractions, and admissions for people with disabilities are completely free. Charles Manson's mother didn't even bother giving him a name. When nurses handed her the paper, she wrote no name, and Manson's birth certificate read no name Maddox until his death. After his mother spent 3 years in prison, she came home and hugged Charles for the first and only time. He later said that this hug was the only happy memory from his childhood. When 32-year-old Manson was released from prison in 1967, he requested to stay behind bars. He'd spent nearly half his life in jail and saw it as his only true home. Authorities denied his refusal, and Manson started his cult shortly after he was freed. On August 9, 1969, Manson instructed 3 of his cult members to kill everyone inside the home of a record executive whom Charles claimed had double-crossed him. But what Manson didn't know was that the executive wasn't there and instead rented out the property to his friends Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Back in June, a 3-year-old boy named Riker Webb wandered off from his family's yard in Montana and went missing in the wilderness for 2 days. This photo was taken when he was miraculously found alive in a shed more than 2 miles away from his home. Authorities say he was extremely lucky considering the valley he was found in is riddled with mountain lions and bears. In the heat of COVID, an Asian man was arrested for training his pit bull to drop bricks on people who rang his doorbell. Attack of the Dead Men was a World War I battle during which the Germans bombarded the Russians with a mixture of poisonous gases. The effects were so devastating that the Russians coughed up pieces of their own organs and their skin started dissolving. The zombie-like appearance was so horrifying to the 7,000 Germans that they gave up the battle and ran. In the 1990s, FBI agent Robert Hansen was assigned the task of finding a double agent within the FBI. It was later discovered that Hansen was the mole they were looking for and had been working with the KGB since 1979, in what was quite possibly the worst intelligence disaster in US history. He's now serving out 15 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Oscar the Cat served on 3 World War II battleships, 1 German and 2 British. All 3 ships were sunken during battles, but the Cat miraculously survived each time by floating on wooden planks. He was later nicknamed Unsinkable Sam. Former NFL player Dylan McCullough was adopted in 1973 and reunited with his birth mother in 2017. She then revealed the name of his father, who turned out to be his coach and mentor throughout his life without either of them having any idea they were related. The first known photograph of a person was taken in 1838. It only happened because a man and his shoe shiner were the only people still enough on a busy street to show up in the 10-minute exposure. Found along an ancient Greek colony along the Nile River, the oldest known pair of socks are 1,600 years old. They're made out of red wool and were designed to be worn with sandals. The Nishiyama Hotel in Japan is considered to be the oldest hotel in the world. It's been managed by the same family over 52 generations and has been operating since the year 705. Dated to 1504, this carved ostrich egg is the oldest known depiction of the New World. The globe shows North America as an unnamed group of scattered islands. It contains depictions of ships and monsters and even includes the phrase Hic sunt dracones, which translates to Here lies dragons. A virtual autopsy of King Tut showed that he had a club foot, a severe overbite, womanly hips, and enlarged breasts. Further evidence revealed that these deformities were the result of incest since his parents were brother and sister. Inside the pharaoh's tomb, archaeologists found the mummified remains of 2 babies. They were most likely King Tut's stillborn twin daughters, one of whom was riddled with deformities just like her dad. King Tut is the only known mummy from ancient Egypt who was purposely mummified with an erection, which broke off soon after his discovery. King Tut's death remains a mystery, but theories range from a bone disorder, malaria, and even a hippo attack. Another theory is that he was run over by a chariot since his body was found with multiple broken ribs, a shattered pelvis, and a broken leg. Not to mention his heart, sternum, and breastbone were all missing, adding to the intrigue of the boy king.